All right, welcome back to another episode of What's Hockey, the last one of the season as the finals have just wrapped up. We're going to get into that
Pretty
in just a
wild.
second. As we always do, we go around that hockey. Keaton, there was a trade that we have to talk about. What happened?
Yeah, so it looks like I believe Linus Allmark from the Boston Bruins is headed to Ottawa for a first round pick and Corpusalo, Junis Corpusalo. Um, so yeah, I mean the duo of Jeremy Swayman and Allmark was always just kind of that big tandem. So they finally kind of just split it up, got some value out of them. Honestly, the Bruins did a pretty good job, got some great value out of that trade. So um, hopefully it'll bolster the Ottawa season and make sure that they're, good to go going forward. Because, I mean, they didn't do so great last year, so hopefully it'll be turned around, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
believe the Boston Bruins got a pretty great value out of it. And unfortunately, splitting up Jeremy Swayman and Allmark, apparently they were like pretty good friends. But yeah, other than that, I think that was a
I
good
think
move.
it's a pretty win. It's a pretty big win-win situation for both clubs because I mean Ottawa, a bad team last year, bringing in a guy like Olmark who has been fantastic. Really, the only reason he's getting moved is Swayman was so dang good that he can now
So
be the
good.
number one instead of the backup. And so both teams now they've got their starting goalies, and the Bruins add a first-round pick. So yeah, I think it's a big-time win-win for both clubs.
Yeah, and he's
Um,
only 30. I mean, as far as the range of hockey goes, you could play till you're like 82 for some reason. But yeah, I mean, people go on pretty long. So, I mean, he's only 30. He's still got some years on him. He's pretty good. And looks like he's happy to be a senator. It looks like on this article it says. But yeah, I mean, feels like it's a pretty good thing. And hopefully the Ottawa Senators go somewhere with him. It looks
for
like
sure.
next up the Conn Smythe Trophy, the MVP of all the playoffs. Connor McDavid did win that. He did not show up,
Yes.
unfortunately. I mean, I can kind of understand, but might as well
I
just do
mean,
it.
I
But
after you just lost Game 7 of the Stanley
I
Cup
mean, he was
Finals, it's pretty
exhausted. I don't
tough.
know if you saw that last like 5 minutes. They were just basically
Oh my
forcing him to
god.
skate. He couldn't even stand.
Yeah,
So
honestly, like I feel like I get it. He's your best player. You want your best players out there on the ice. The backups are a better option when they can actually move around on the ice than him just
give him
dragging
some
his
sense
skates
of
behind him.
rest. Because I
Yeah,
don't know how
like
long he was on the ice at that point, but like he almost immediately got off the ice whenever he collapsed. So I mean,
dude, he
I'm
was
glad that they
completely
did that, but why
exhausted.
did he even collapse? Like that's just ridiculous.
On one of their last ditch attempts to score a goal with like a minute left, he has the puck at the middle of the rink and he cannot move. He's trudging around like he's in sand.
Yeah,
He was just
he
completely
played over
exhausted.
25 minutes that game, which is kind of crazy. And most
Mm,
players, most centers, forwards, etc., they usually play like 20, if that. Maybe 22.
yeah,
So that's a
yeah.
long
No, he was
time.
completely
So
exhausted.
and I'm assuming, yeah,
Uh,
always just getting hit, etc. Just putting it your all in those 25 minutes too.
I mean,
So
and it's the seventh game of the series. Like this is compounded over the last few games during that great comeback. He was playing less minutes during that comeback than he was earlier in the series, but that's just because they were dominating so much. He didn't
yeah,
need
eight
to
to
play
one,
late in the
five to
game.
one, 5-3. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about this last episode, what we expected for these last few games, and it finally caught up on Edmonton. Bobrovsky played a solid game as well, which
yeah,
like I was saying, I couldn't imagine he plays four straight bad games. So finally he steps up a bit. Matthias Janmark did get by him on a breakaway, but other
yeah,
than
wild
that,
goal.
Edmonton's offense, what it was the last three games, you did not see it in last night's game.
Yeah, and
And
I
then on the
mean
other
Connor
end,
McDavid didn't do anything the last two games. I mean he had, I believe, 0 points, but I know for sure no goals. He
mhm,
just almost didn't do anything. I don't even know how many shots on goal he even attempted, but yeah, I mean he was almost non-existent in those last two games. Same
yeah,
with Draisaitl. I believe he only got 1 point that entire series.
Drysaitel didn't even shoot on goal last night, like not
Yeah,
once. I
That's
don't know
crazy.
where he was. I mean, granted, Florida, it was real even the first two periods as far as time of possession and everything. But it also felt like Florida's attacks were just so much deadlier. The way that they were getting it on net, their first goal, it was Verhage who chips it down right after it's a shot on goal from I forget who shoots it on goal. But I mean, they just felt much deadlier than what you had seen in previous games, and it was the complete opposite for Edmonton. Uh, there were two power plays the whole game. Am I wrong on that?
Um, Let me
I
take a
really,
look. I'm not sure if it'll show on here.
I just remember that Edmonton's penalty kill and power plays are studs, and I just don't remember that many opportunities for them to shine last night.
I know they both were on the power play. I just don't know how many on each. I mean, it could have
Mm-hmm.
just been one on one, either
Mm-hmm.
side. So, I mean, no penalties, which is great, as far as just not interrupting the play itself and just making
Sure.
sure that you're not putting yourself at a deficit and, having to protect yourself, etc. But, I mean, yeah, it's pretty interesting that there weren't more. Um, it's too much to
Yeah.
go through. But yeah, it was a pretty great series. That last game was a lot more fought than. I mean, it was closer to Game 5 than anything. But I mean, yeah, I feel like
I mean,
that was
compared
just.
to those two blowouts that Edmonton had, this was a complete flip of the script.
Oh,
Florida definitely
exactly.
came out hungry and ready to fight. And
And not
sometimes
only that, it was
in
just 1-2. It wasn't even like 5-4, high scoring game. Because when the first period, what was it? Within 10 minutes, it was already 1-1. I kind of
the first
expected
goal
it to
was
be a
like
pretty high
5 minutes
scoring game.
into it. Yeah.
So
And then the first goal was 5 minutes into it, and the response was like a minute later.
yeah,
So
it
there
wasn't
was
that
definitely,
far.
it seemed like it was just going to be, like you said, high scoring, just goal after goal. It'll finish like 5-4 type game. And it ends up finishing 2-1. There's only one more goal after that moment in the second period by Florida. And so the defenses on both sides tightened up a bit. But Edmonton just offensively could not get it done. And we talked about it earlier in this podcast, just the way that McDavid was exhausted in that third period. It just wasn't happening for them.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, it seems like the backups didn't really do anything this last game, and they were pretty much heavily featured in the first of the series, kind of thing. So, um, yeah, I don't really know what happened. They're just a little at a loss to pick up any offense. Like you said, the defense played a hell of a game. Bobrovsky definitely played a lot better than anybody on that field or ice, I guess. But he was the second person to touch the cup. So after Barkov grabbed it, he was presented with the cup. I believe he's played 14 seasons. So, searching for the cup for that long and playing a hell of a game as well, well deserved. So I'm glad he got to experience that moment.
Oh, 100%, man. It's we bring up Olmark and all these goalies all the time because you need a hot goalie, a good goalie to go on these late runs in the playoffs. And what we saw from Bobrovsky last night, I mean, he was deserving of touching it second, and now he's a
Yeah,
champion, so it's good
I
for him.
actually saw something. I believe he's actually the first person to touch it second after the captain in like Stanley Cup history or something like the first goalie. So it's kind
Interesting.
of interesting because I believe there was another
Yeah,
goalie
I
that
mean, like
basically got to
that
grab
is
it
pretty
after the
surprising.
captain, but it was the second one after.
That's
But
very
yeah,
surprising, actually. I feel like since 2000, there have been plenty of like elite goaltenders who've won a Stanley Cup with their team, and you'd think at least one of them would have touched a second.
yeah,
That's a pretty big tradition in hockey, and so that's pretty surprising.
yeah. I mean, maybe not the only, but one of like very few. That's for sure. But
Gotcha.
yeah, played a hell of a game, well deserved, like I said. And Paul Maurice gave quite the speech at the end of the game as well. Pretty nice.
I did
Connor
see him
McDavid was pretty depressed.
when he finally got the trophy, and he was like extremely emotional. And I don't blame him,
Yeah.
but I think there was some line that he'd been a head coach for over like 25 years or
Yeah,
something.
he said
And
like keeping up losing for 30 years or something like that, just for me to finally pick it up.
yeah. So, I mean, hey, good for him. There were times where during the series, I think it was after game 5 or something, and he was like, yeah, the last 2 losses are unrelated to each other. I'm like, this guy doesn't know what to do to like close the series out. Like, he's kind of
Yeah.
fraudulent. But no, he got his team up and ready for this game 7. So, hey, man, I was a little surprised by that. So,
Yeah.
good for him.
It
I feel
was
like I keep ending my congratulations for every Florida
good
fan.
for
Like,
him.
good for him. That was good
You
for
did
him.
great. That was great. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right, right.
But yeah, I mean, they visited the Cup last year, so they finally did get to win it this year, and in 30 years as well with the entire Florida Panthers franchise. That's their first win, so pretty good for them. Just to get that
That is
final
good for
first
them.
tally mark. Um, a lot of Vancouver fans, Calgary fans, and any other Canada teams definitely enjoy this victory. So it's pretty nice as
It's
well.
funny because I feel like the super casual, just Canadian fan who likes hockey would be like, yeah, let's bring it back to Canada. But there were other fan
Sure.
bases of like Vancouver
Yeah.
and, like everyone was just like, no, or Calgary. All their fans were like, no, Edmonton ain't going to be the
No.
one. Like, that's a rival. We don't
We don't
want
like
them to
them.
bring it back. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because I believe I think Kachuk thanked Calgary, Maurice thanked Winnipeg, and another person thanked Vancouver. Their
That's
fans.
hilarious. My
So
gosh.
yeah, I mean, yeah, just to give him that extra fu to the Oilers, I guess. So
Sure.
pretty good.
Yeah. Keaton, is it going to stay out of Canada and reside in Detroit next year?
I don't know about Detroit, but yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have a pretty good team. I mean, I hope we've learned from the mistakes and then get a little bit better on defense over the draft and grab some goalies, etc. But yeah,
First
I
step
mean,
is making the postseason, right?
I guess so, but not necessarily. You could definitely just hit the postseason and win the cup. So that could be your first step.
All right, let's see it.
But yeah, ultimately, I would like to see them grab some defense, get a good goalie, etc. At least give some mental coaching to the boys.
Yes,
So
yes.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
hope they do something, but yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily hate anybody on the team, like as far as like anybody contributing absolutely nothing. I feel like everybody's a pretty good player. But yeah, I mean, I just hope we get either some addition or some sort of coaching to just make them a lot better.
the off season should be kind of entertaining, man. I don't know if this will definitely be like our last episode for maybe a few weeks. I don't know what the upcoming schedule is going to look like for you and I, but we
Yeah,
should at
or the
least have
draft or
a
anything else. I'm not sure
yeah.
exactly when that is, so we should get on that.
We
But
should
either
have
way,
at least a season preview episode about 2 weeks before the season starts, maybe.
yeah,
The
for sure.
draft is. Why would that be? Okay. The draft happens on
Nice,
June
dude.
28th
Oh, that's
through
not
the
too far.
29th. So it's coming up.
Yeah,
So I'll be out of town, but once I get back,
yeah.
maybe we can do a little recap and see what moves teams have
Who got
made.
what and who did the
Hopefully,
best?
our teams decided to do something special, but we shall
Nice,
see
dude.
for sure.
Yeah, so you don't know about the Stars? What are they gonna do over the offseason?
Well, the
Or
thing
whatever.
is, so I know we moved Delandria and Pavelski retired. We do have a lot of young
Oh, that was
talent, such as
official.
Stankov and sorry,
Did he do it like right
Pavelski.
after the game? Yeah,
I don't know
Pavelski.
if it's like official, but I believe he
Well, I know he
said like
like.
he's going
I
to
feel like he said
retire.
something about that because a bunch of people on the Stars were kind of crying that they couldn't give him the cup. But yeah,
Yeah,
I just didn't know if it was like
I'm
officially
pretty
announced. I didn't
sure.
know.
I'm pretty sure he's done. I think so. I think you'd have to bring in 2 to 3
I
just
didn't mean crying in
decent.
the worst way, but
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. 2 to 3, like just decent, good forwards. They don't really have to be stars, although that'd be welcome as well, of course. And then probably another defender.
They would be stars. What do you mean?
All right, you're the one. Another defender, and you know what? We could use a backup goalie. Like Wedgwood was fine, but in the playoffs, I think Ottinger played every game because I mean you just couldn't rely on Wedgwood, and at least one playoff game
Sergey
you got to put in the back.
Played every game. Sergey Bobrovsky.
I know he did in the last series or two. I don't know if that's true for the first two.
I feel like he played the full thing, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I didn't watch it closely, but I know he did get pulled when he was like, peppered with 5 shots. But other than that, as far as starting, I believe he started every game.
And that might be the case. I just know that like Ottinger got hurt last season, and we had to rely on Wedgwood for an extended period, and I didn't like watching that day in day out.
It's the same thing with Red Wings, and
it doesn't hurt to have a good backup,
For sure.
I mean, when the Stars went on their run in 2020, the initial starter was Ben Bishop, and we had Khudobin as the backup. Khudobin ends up going on a hell of a run and leads us to the Stanley Cup Finals. So, you gotta, even if it's not a necessity at this point, it might become one in the future. So you gotta always have a backup plan ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, yeah, it'll just be a different look come this, or everybody's just going to be the same. I don't know if anybody's going to be like a restricted free agent, but I know with Lucas Raymond and Mo Seider, they're going to hopefully sign them, but it just hasn't happened yet, I guess.
Sure.
But I think they're just kind of like working the deal, seeing what they can do. But I mean, I like both of those players. Hopefully we can retain them, but it sounds like they don't want to leave as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, hopefully our teams take care of business in the offseason. But I don't really have too much more to add. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we close it out?
No, that should be it. But thanks for watching this full season. Hopefully we can bring it back and give you some more information for the next season.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all. Take care.
Have a good one.